Welcome to Wake Up with Joni, the podcast where spiritual awakening meets real life. This is a space for real conversations, real courage, and deep remembering, where we stop performing, start telling the truth, and reconnect to the wisdom that lives in our bodies, our choices, and our everyday lives. Here we explore what it truly means to live awake, aware, and aligned, navigating health, healing, longevity, relationships, and conscious evolution with curiosity, compassion, and courage. Today's conversation bridges science, vitality, and the future of human potential in a powerful way. Joining me today is Dr. Jeffrey Gross, a pioneer in regenerative and longevity medicine and the founder of ReCELLebrate, a leading regenerative medicine practice. Dr. Gross specializes in stem cell activation, exosome therapy, precision biohacking, and regenerative treatments designed to support healing, vitality, and longevity at a cellular level. His work integrates cutting-edge science and deeply personalized care, focusing on whole being wellness, not just treating symptoms. So this is a conversation about what's possible when science meets intention and when healing becomes collaborative, conscious, and empowered. So welcome. I'm really glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Let's start with the fact that I understand you were a neurosurgeon.
Once a neurosurgeon, always a neurosurgeon. It chose me, but I'm recovering somewhat from that.
Okay.
I'm still a neurosurgeon. I still see patients with problems of neurosurgical interest, but I try heck not to recommend surgery if I can help it. We have so many other tools that were not presented to me during my formal education, training, residency, fellowship that I have specifically sought out to make available to people who want to try something in the regenerative space, the stem cell, the peptide, the exosome space, because there are options there. And the doctrine of informed consent means we have to go over all the options with somebody when we're helping them make a decision what to do.
Yeah, but first you have to know them. My understanding is you're taught a certain corridor of knowledge,
Yeah.
and you're very specialized as doctors out there, which limits, strangely, it limits the options, right?
Joni, I had to put down the Kool-Aid. I just had to do it. And something occurred to me early in my career, and that's that what we were trained to do, we were trained by professors, great professors, who were trained 20 or 30 years earlier by people trained 20 or 30 years earlier. And looking back historically, for example, I have a spine fellowship. I did a lot of spine care, spine surgery. A lot of things we do in the spine haven't changed meaningfully since the 1940s. There are two surgeries for the spine for the most part. We either make more room or we lock it together called a fusion, or both. That's it. That hasn't changed. I mean, yeah, you can come at it with a new incision or new widget or something, but it's the same couple of things. So that occurred to me. And then I got really disgusted when I kept going to these neurosurgery conferences every year where these bow tie wearing knuckleheads kept presenting a new finding on a series of 100 patients with neck surgery. They presented that 40 years ago when I was a medical student. So nothing was moving forward, and I felt we're stuck in the mud, and I didn't want to keep doing that.
Out of curiosity, because this is the first time we're meeting, what drove you to become a doctor? Was it your parents? Was it a mission to help people? What drove you? And then part two, what then pushed you into, and you talked about a little bit just now, into the regenerative
Yeah.
arena?
Yeah. Why do you become a doctor, or why does a doctor become you? I mean, that's going to require some psychoanalysis here in front of everyone. But yeah, I mean, sure, I was always a task-oriented, compulsive detail person, helping people. I admired my own doctors. It didn't make my mother unhappy that was an interest of mine. I love biological science, dissecting frogs and things in biology class. And it filtered in quite a bit. And I had the right people encourage me. And some people discouraged me to test me, and I overcame that. Why did I flip a bit here in my career about 8 years ago? It's patients came to me and said, "Hey, doc, we tried everything for our low back problem. I tried therapy, physical therapy, chiropractic care, acupuncture. I tried stretching, yoga, meditation, prayer, shockwave,
Energy work.
everything, medicines, injections, and they help a little bit here and there temporarily, but I'm still having trouble. I can't play pickleball, whatever. And I say, well, shoot, the only thing left on the menu is surgery. And they go, well, wait a minute, I'm not that bad. And I say, oh, great. I'm glad to hear that because I didn't want to have to offer it to you.
Mhm.
And they would say, what else you got? And I'd say, well, not a whole lot. You want to try the therapy again? You want, and they'd say, how about lasers? How about stem cells? And how about crystals? How about whatever? And then stem cells repeated itself enough time. And you've probably heard this phrase, chance favors the prepared mind. And
Mhm.
luckily, my undergraduate background is in biochemistry and molecular cell biology, which is sort of the field of cellular health and biohacking and stem cells. And a lot's happened. And I went back and learned. And I said, I started going to stem cell conferences and re educated. And gosh, so much had happened in the decades since college. And a lot of that we give credit to Europeans and Asians for pushing the envelope when America is very suppressed in these fields, not so much now, but 30 years ago, 20 years ago, whether it be the influences of policy and or economics slash big pharma, big implant, what have you. So I retrained and it opened my eyes, hoping for a new tool for my spine patients, but now it's a set of tools and a new paradigm for so many other problems. So I treat way more problems besides the spine now than I ever did joints, inflammatory problems, recovery, injuries, the brain, the spine, the all kinds of things now. So it's a whole new version 2.0 of my medical career.
Yeah, it's a whole new world. So, first of all, I want to acknowledge something because I have been around a lot of neurosurgeons and orthopedic surgeons. My ex-husband was part of that community in Beverly Hills area for a long time. He still is, ex-husband. I want to acknowledge you. Clearly, you're brilliant and clearly you know what you're doing, but clearly also you do not come from arrogance or ego.
Well, first of all, thank you. I make an effort, I think, not to be the people in my field or my past field that embarrassed me. Some of those trained me, some of them were colleagues, and I'm probably over it enough now and it's behind me or I have matured that I don't need to be right,
Yeah.
even when I am.
Well, we want confidence in our doctors.
Yeah,
Absolutely. We want them to be confident because
yeah.
we can slipstream on their confidence. That's really important. But arrogance can get in the way. So it was just an observation. When
Thank you.
did when did stem cells absolutely show up? Wasn't it longer ago, 20 years, 30 years? And they were
Yeah.
looking at it like voodoo. And I don't know if the FDA was pushing back. I mean, what was the beginning of the,
Yeah. Well, I think that they've been around for 20 to 30 years,
yeah.
research early, a lot of that again, not in the US. There was a spike in interest after Christopher Reeves was injured, and we have the Reeves Institute at
Mhm.
UC Irvine campus, and research was being done, and good people learned good things. But then there was this mythology that came about, and I have a feeling Big Pharma is behind this mythology that we were getting the stem cells from embryos, aborted babies and things, which is absolutely nonsense. So things got shut down. There were these overreactive regulations in some places. And people thought, and still there's a myth out there that somehow these things are illegal. It's
Wow.
complete nonsense. They're not illegal. And but who loves that myth is the clinics in south of our border, right? They
Mhm.
love to say, oh, you have to come to us.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
nonsense. I mean, you can go to them if you want to go to Tijuana for vacation, have at it. But we have access to highly regulated and qualified biological materials here. The labs that provide those materials come from ethically donated sources.
Mhm.
The labs are FDA regulated, registered, certified, audited,
Mhm.
site visits. I mean, it's a highly regulated process. The donations are through the American Tissue Bank, another highly regulated service. So it's available. What we can't do in this country is make a marketing claim,
Mm.
because those have not yet been evaluated by the FDA, who is in charge of marketing claims for medical products, drugs, devices, things like that. So, is it illegal to make a marketing claim? It's non-compliant, it's not proper. But
Mm.
many things I have always done as a doctor aren't regulated by those marketing claims, or we can't make marketing claims. For example, I'm going to do a spine surgery. I can't guarantee the outcome of that.
Yes.
Surgery is not yet approved for marketing claims, but we can speak to literature, medical evidence, publications, anecdotes of other patients, reviews. We can
Hmm.
still do that with stem cell based products too. So there's a lot of mythology, a lot of disinformation, some of it used to weaponize against good doctors and good clinics.
Hmm. Alternative medicine that goes into their bottom line. Yeah. So, can you now speak to what is a stem cell and what is an exosome? And let's get into the yummy stuff about this. Tell me everything.
Absolutely. So I hope everyone listening is taking notes. There'll be a quiz at the end of the show. A stem cell is a cell from which all others stem. So when you are a fertilized egg inside of your mother's womb, you are an omnipotent stem cell. You can make a human.
Wow.
Then, as that fetus grows, an embryo grows into sort of a fetus that starts to look human-ish. Then those cells can't make a whole human. They diversify, they divide, and they can maybe make a limb or a liver or a kneecap. And those cells are called pluripotent. They're very powerful still. Those are pluripotent stem cells, a type of embryonic cell. But then you develop finally into that ready to be born fetus baby, and you're born full of stem cells called multipotent stem cells. And they can still replace tissue, help you heal, help you grow and develop, but they're not going to regrow your limb yet. We're
I was
learning how
going, that was one of
we're
my
learning how to
questions.
do that. And as a parenthetical statement, to regrow a limb, we have to induce those stem cells from multipotent back into their prior pluripotent stage.
Mm.
And that can be done. There was a Nobel Prize for what it takes to induce a cell backwards along those phases into a more powerful state. We're learning how to control those cells. That's coming.
Wow.
But currently, in our clinic, we don't offer pluripotent stem cell therapies. We offer multipotent stem cell therapies, commonly sourced from what are called MSCs. MSCs are a type of stem cell that are multipotent. They're available in our own bodies for one source. They were originally called mesenchymal stem cells, but probably better named medicinal signaling cells. And we'll get to that when we describe exosomes here. When we talk about stem cells or you see a stem cell clinic, we're really talking about these multipotent MSCs. Now, when you look at a population of stem cells, we know that they are more active when they're more youthful. We love donated cells from umbilical cords that are no longer needed. When
Mm.
are they no longer needed? When a mother having a C-section has a new healthy baby in her arms and they're about to throw away the umbilical cord, the placenta, the amniotic fluid, right?
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
trash. Well, that trash is treasure. So it's donated and these mothers are screened and what have you. And we can talk about that if you want, but it's an ethical process.
Mhm.
And that's probably the richest source of stem cells, AKA medicinal signaling cells.
Mhm.
And those have therapeutic power. Some of them can be fresh from the umbilical cord. Some of them can go into what's called a tissue culture and divide a few times. We don't like them divided more than a few times because then they start to be a copy of a copy of a copy, and you get into that problem that copy of a copy of a copy has.
Mhm.
And that's stem cell 101. As a side shoot, if you'll allow me to keep rambling, there is a subset of MSCs, probably 1% ish of the umbilical cord MSCs are smaller and a little more powerful called Muse cells. And that's become popularized recently, and you may have heard of that. And we're now just tapping into those And for the quiz later, that stands for multilineage undifferentiated stress enduring stem cell. But just remember Muse, MUSE. So that's
Mhm.
coming. You'll see that more.
So just from that segment, the question for me is, so two questions, I do this all the time. What do you do with those stem cells to heal and what? And are we heading toward being able to use stem cells to recreate a knee replacement, for example?
So the answer to the latter question is we have things right now that help delay and put off and maybe avoid a knee replacement. We'll get into that, I hope.
Okay.
As to the first question, we use the stem cells for so many things. Musculoskeletal joints, that's a low hanging fruit. That's an easy one. We do IV approaches. We have inhalational use of these biologics. I'm going to use the word biologics now because we're going to include exosomes in a minute.
Okay.
And we're going to switch the paradigm from cells to cell signaling, which when people leave the show, I want them to know that stem cells aren't doing the job. They're delivering the message.
Got
Okay.
it.
We
Right.
now can skip to the message. So yes, there's so much we can do: cosmetic, inhalational, brain health, nasal spray delivered to the brain through the exosomes, things like this. So when you're ready, let's move to part two.
Okay. All right. Not quite ready yet because I speak to a huge audience over 50. So when you
Okay.
say stem cells to the brain, we're talking dementia, Alzheimer's, or just neural pathway enhancement,
All of
uh,
it.
all of it.
All of it.
Okay. And that's a
Yeah.
nasal?
Yeah. When we get into the exosomes, it's by
Okay.
nasal spray.
Okay.
Stem cells delivered intranasal or IV really don't cross into the brain. They're too big. Now, I just read a paper that Muse cells may be small enough to be delivered intranasal.
Ooh. Ooh. And then you said something about the lungs. So somebody with breathing issues, lung issues, they would breathe in what you've created
Yeah.
to,
Yeah, we
okay.
do just a breathing machine nebulizer. The exosomes are better for that as well, in my opinion. And we see people with inflammatory lung issues, chronic bronchitis, COPD. We've had some cystic fibrosis patients, all kinds of different things that we might try.
Huge, huge. Okay, so let's move on to exosomes so that we can then talk about anti-aging. My favorite
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and at the end of this section, stem cells and exosomes are really doing similar things. Stem cells are delivering a message to our cells. Let's rewind for a second. If you came to the clinic, Joni, and we gave you an IV of stem cells, which we used to do, and we measured those stem cells in your bloodstream a couple of days later, most of them would be gone. And you would say, Jeff, I just paid you for these stem cells and they're gone out of my system. And I'd say, I'm sorry. And you'd say, but I still feel great. And you might say that for weeks or months, and some of the things might even be longer. And you would say, if the stem cells are gone, what happened? And
It activated.
I would explain to you, we activated. Yeah, the stem cells delivered a message to your cells. And at the end of the day, your cells are getting flipped from an inflamed style to an anti-inflamed style. Let's talk about that. So over exposure to the world, our food source, our water source, electromagnetic fields, bad thoughts, what we should have eaten and we didn't, lack of exercise, all these things cause our cells to get gunked up with inflammatory proteins, peptides, pathways,
Mhm,
and get oxidative stress, and they don't function. They should. They can't maintain us and keep us youthful. We want them to. How do we do that? We got to get them into an anti-inflammatory lifestyle. We have to eat right, exercise, take the right supplements, avoid toxins, etc. Meditate,
mhm,
sleep properly, hot sauna, cold plunge, all kinds of things to get there. Regenerative medicine, whether it's stem cells or something in the stem cell family of regenerative biologics, convince our cells to go from that cranky inflamed defense state,
mhm,
inflamed, into that anti-inflamed state where they can be more optimally functioning. So in a joint, maybe they can make cartilage again.
mhm.
Maybe it helps us think clearer. Maybe it helps give us more energy because we're not busy fighting inflammation. That signal is transmitted from stem cells in two ways. One, through the secretion of those cells by what are called peptides and growth factors. Growth factors are proteins, peptides are small proteins, so they're in the same family. Those peptides and proteins are taken up by receptors on our cells. And it says, hey, what are you doing? Stop goofing around. And then the other, probably more powerful and more abundant source of signaling comes from small bubbles. Now, you might say small, but the cells are small. And I would say even smaller, 1/1000th the size of a cell, measured in nanometers across. So we call them nanoparticles. They're small vesicles, little membrane, a little bit of microRNA and growth peptides and really great information. Those thousands of bubbles are given off of a cell, and those bubbles are taken in by other cells of ours, delivering a message. Oh, it's a neighborhood watch saying, hey, lock your doors. We saw a suspicious character. It causes our own cells to start to do the right thing. Stop
Okay.
making those inflammatory proteins and cytokines. Stop making war machines. Make peacetime refrigerators and microwaves. Okay.
Wow.
And then,
Wow.
so that is the message. And those vesicles are called exosomes. All cells make them, but when we say exosomes, we're really talking about stem cell derived exosomes, that youthful restorative healing message. And we like these particles because they're small enough to cross into the brain,
Mm.
and they travel through tissue better. They get to the whole body, and they're a fraction of the cost of stem cells because they come from filtered amniotic fluid, and amniotic fluid is so abundant volume wise compared to an umbilical cord and the cells therein. And that requires a lot more work to get the cells. Whereas the amniotic fluid, you filter it, you test it, you screen it, and you keep it frozen, and that's available for use. So what we're really using is the filtered amniotic fluid product, fresh frozen, and that is, we call it exosomes. It's got the growth factors in it, the same kind of growth factors you'd find in PRP.
Wow. This is what you would call precision biohacking, right?
Well, no, we can get even more precise from there.
Okay.
So
I
this
have
is the
no idea where we're
graduate
going.
class. We are now getting our hands on tissue-specific stem cell-based exosomes. So I just ordered some for the scalp. We do exosome injections in the scalp for thinning hair, and it's still a challenge for us. We get some good results, but we want even better results. So now we have specific ones from stem cells that are in the dermal papillae follicle tissue type. So
Hmm.
they have even, so their cargo, their information is even more specific for hair growth than a generic stem cell derived exosome. We're getting more granular, more precise in the precision medicine arena.
Yeah. So going back to when I asked you about making a knee, your point, which is huge, is using the stem cells and the exosomes to stimulate one's natural healing,
You got
such
it.
that you don't need the knee replacement.
You got it.
I
So
still
we
have my
do.
knees, by the way.
Good for you. We do that now. So we're very precise about targeting. We get a high quality MRI. We look for the inflammatory damaged cells. The cells that make your hair, Joni, the hair is a protein. Those cells live in your scalp. So you have to treat the scalp. You don't treat the hair.
Mhm.
Cells that make cartilage in your knee, for example, live in the bone edge. They're called chondrocytes. And it was demonstrated in the European literature with over 15-year follow-up that if you stimulate the chondrocytes to stop being inflamed and get back to factory work, they can make cartilage again. So that's what we do. We address the bone edges because that is the superior technique. And not all clinics can do it, but we can do it. And that's how we approach it. So I've done, in the last 6 to 8 years, I think we've done over 700 joints now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now my brain keeps clicking on stuff. So would it be contraindicated if one has cancer because you don't want to generate more cells or what have you?
Correct.
What's
We don't use generic stem cell derived biologics in people with cancer. However,
okay.
we do have specific exosomes from natural killer cells. So you may have heard of those. Those are specific white blood cells, a small proportion of our immune system, whose job it is to go around the body and remove abnormal
Mhm.
cells.
Yes.
Some of those cells are parasitically infected cells. They could be zombie senescent cells
Ugh.
and cancer cells, because during our lifetime, we accidentally make a few cancer cells here and there, and they get screened out selectively.
Hmm.
So natural killer cells find them and kill them because they secrete their own exosomes, and those exosomes go into the cancer cell and cause it to die. We notice, and there are publications showing that patients with different types of cancer, when you do their blood tests, have a reduced number and function of their natural killer cells. Now, I'm not saying that's the cause, but doesn't it make sense that if we could jazz up their natural killer cell function,
Yes,
it might
yes.
help fight the tumor without chemotherapy or radiation, or in addition to, or all kinds of different strategies there, right?
Yeah.
So those studies have been done, and it's true, it works. On top of that, there are studies showing the natural killer cell exosomes injected into solid tumors can help those tumors shrink away. And that's how we're using them.
Wow. So zombie senescent cells, could you just give a little description of that? My understanding is that as we age, we tend to collect them or have more of them, or
Yeah.
they're running around in there. So
Yes.
give us a quick 101
Yes.
on that.
So as we get inflamed and expose ourselves to things and don't behave properly with lifestyle, some of the cells that divide too many times just aren't doing their job. They're not contributing to the community, but they take up resources. They get big and bloaty and leaky, and they leak yucky stuff, bunch of waste products. So you want to get rid of these, right? And if they don't die, they float around. And the more of them you have, we call them senescent or older cells. Those older cells mean more of those. You have a higher population of older cells. You yourself are biologically older.
Mhm.
So the strategy is you need to reduce them. We have some techniques in our biology that reduces them, but sometimes they just overwhelm us. Natural killer cells is one of the ways we remove them. But if your natural killer cells are down, then you age faster. So one of the studies we tap into used natural killer cells. They didn't have exosomes at the time. They gave them to patients, and they measured a marker for senescent cell activity. So there's an enzyme called beta galactosidase, and that might be on the quiz. You might want to write it down. And that's a blood test you can get. And if you have a lot of senescent cells, your beta galactosidase is higher. Okay.
Oh.
So they gave natural killer cell function. They reduced the blood test of beta galactosidase, meaning they were able to reduce the activity of the senescent cells. Last one dose of natural killer cell treatment lasted in some patients up to 2 years in keeping that blood marker down. So if you could keep your aging cells, your senescent cells, your zombie cell levels down, you are effectively biologically younger, even though your age is going out on the calendar. I have so few doses of natural killer cells. I save them for cancer patients. I want them to
Oh.
have access to these.
Oh.
They're so hard to come by, and
Mm.
I have very few doses available. But if you're healthy, the generic stem cell derived exosome amniotic product still has anti-aging, biologically age reduction capability.
So tell me, what is your intuition about where medicine is going? Because 30 years ago, this was very sci-fi and looked
Yeah.
askance. And now it's, well, of course. And what took you so long?
Yes.
So,
Yes, exactly. Well, I think we're moving slower than we should, and a lot of that is because the sick care system is so scripted out by the payers, the United Healthcares and the other health insurance companies that make more in a day than they pay out in a year. That
mm,
is sucking the healthcare delivery dollar out of the system. There's plenty of money in the system. It's just not going to healthcare.
I think it was Portugal or some Asian country where the doctors got paid for the wellness of their
Yeah,
patient,
I saw
not,
that somewhere. It,
yeah,
it,
not based
it
on the sickness of the
it's
patient.
I
So
love that. I would be very wealthy, I think, if that was the
yes.
case.
Yeah, if the desired outcome was everyone gets well and you get paid
Yeah.
well. So what about AI in all this?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. I just came back 2.5 weeks ago from speaking at the Health Tech Summit in San Francisco at a health tech AI meeting, and it's still pretty low level. It's mostly dealing with healthcare data,
Mm,
healthcare billing. It's a
mm,
boring topic. And there's some cutting edge people and companies using it for diagnostics. Like they can read an X-ray or an MRI or a pathological slide better than a human. And I believe that because it's all about pattern recognition. And that's all doctors are doing anyway at first is we're trying to figure out what's wrong by looking at patterns we've learned. So if AI is a great pattern recognizer.
Mhm.
So I think an application side, it's great for complex cases. You have someone with some weird set of symptoms, they have all kinds of blood tests and labs and x-rays, and you can't figure out what's wrong. AI can help you evaluate that because you're looking at a bunch of different patterns at the same time, and we can't compute that, whereas an AI can, an AI model or what they call these LLMs, which really are huge pattern recognizers. I think we are having increasing use of that in healthcare.
I if we can dovetail AI, which would make it a massive delivery system with the stem cell exosome medicine, it could get to a whole lot more people, right?
It will help. I think the missing part is the we call it metabolomics or exosomomics. We're looking at the actual cargo, what's in there. That's the ultimate of precision medicine. So,
Okay.
and then I think the AI will be great for looking at. One of the things I proposed at this health tech summit, I made a wish list, and I
Mhm.
proposed a device in your kitchen, and you would go and it would measure your health metrics and your maybe a quick blood test it would take, and it would give you your daily peptide cocktail, maybe some exosomes, some synthetic exosomes, some peptides, and you would take it, giving your body what it's missing for the day. So based on your own biochemistry, it would replace and enhance your biochemistry for
Mhm.
optimal health performance, what have you.
Yes. So you said synthetic exosomes. Is that the plant derivative? Did you derive?
No, no. Synthetic exosomes would be, and these are talked about all over the internet, but there's lipid nanoparticles. So you make a membrane, it's a fatty layer, it's a lipid, and that's how exosomes are constructed naturally. And
Mhm.
in them, you put custom cargo. That would be a synthetic exosome. And we've been
Oh,
approached by pharmaceutical companies to help them create one. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not, but
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with the concept of an off-the-shelf synthetic one mimicking nature. But the plants make exosomes too, Joni. In fact, plants deliver the phytonutrients and the vitamins that they make almost uniformly through exosomes. And
Oh.
it's ironic that if you take a vitamin, let's say I'm taking a vitamin B complex that you got at the vitamin store of your choice, and you take all those vitamins to get that vitamin, it was either made synthetically to mimic the natural, or they took enough plants, broke up the cells of the plants, broke up the exosomes of the plants, and extracted the vitamin. The sad thing is, when you take that in your body orally,
Mhm.
you lose a lot in the digestive process. Some of
Yeah.
it in your bloodstream, and your bloodstream doesn't know what to do with it.
Mhm.
And what do we do to the lab? We go get blood levels of vitamin B. What does that tell you? How much is in your bloodstream? It tells you nothing about what's in your cell.
Yeah.
Metabolomic testing will, and that's now becoming available. Very little of that might get into your cell, but nature's figured this out and we're just tapping into it. And nature, plants make exosomes chock full of vitamins, and phytonutrients would be the flavonoids and the quercetin and the spermidine and the glutathione and the quercetin, the phycetin. I mean, I could go on and on. These are cocoa plant flavonoids, all kinds of things. These all are packaged in exosomes by nature. And if you eat a plant and you break it down, you're getting the exosome. It's a hardier membrane. It survives digestion, gets into your bloodstream. And guess what? Exosomes love cells because it's a
Mm.
membrane fusion and an endocytosis of those materials. You get a high delivery. So, guess what we did? And this was not meant to be an advertisement, but we sourced a lab that could extract the exosomes from plants. And we now have a supplement for longevity based on plant derived exosomes.
That survives the digestive process.
Yep. And
Interesting.
so plant derived extracellular vesicles or PDEVs or plant exosomes have a hardier membrane, and they survive the digestion. They're designed to, we've evolved around it, and they get into the system with high bioavailability. The math on that is somewhere between 700 to 4,500 times the delivery to the cell than you would get from an off-the-shelf vitamin.
Wow. What about, I'm a neophyte, so I ask these questions. What about a dermal patch of some kind for
Yeah,
exercise?
the skin though, the skin is tough.
Yeah.
Our skin is an amazing barrier. It's waterproof. So yeah, you can get some
Except
water
going
in
the other
there.
way.
But why do you put on moisturizer? To seal in the water, right? Because it's not getting there. Yeah, it's hard to get exosomes through the skin. It does get into some of the lower layers, and you try to keep the particles small and the molecular weight of the carrier low, but it's not ideal. It's funny you say that because we do have the amniotic exosomes that we use in a
Mhm.
cream, and we do have some benefits from it, but you really don't get any systemic uptake. So a
Yeah.
delivery
Okay.
patch at this time is just not ideal.
Okay. All right. So if a person's out there listening, where do they begin? Because you mentioned eating well, moving your body, drinking enough
Mhm.
water, getting enough sleep. I don't know if you mentioned those, but all of those
Yeah,
things, those are
yeah,
the obvious ones.
yeah.
But with what you're speaking of, where do they begin? What's the first step?
Yeah, you do all the epigenetic lifestyle choice based things. You have control over that. A lot of those are free, right? Exercising can be free.
Mhm, mhm.
Weight bearing exercise, exercise hard. You don't have to exercise for long, but you want to use your muscles. Bone density and muscle mass are correlated with longevity. You got to take care of your movement. Movement will take care of you, takes care of your brain. And then, of course, diet, supplements, good sleep hygiene, hormone optimization is a key element. I don't want to underscore that. That's a key element for all these things. If you're going to look at taking the next step and leveling up into regenerative biologics, stem cells, exosomes, peptides, things like that, we want to give it to people who are already optimized with everything else. You're going to get more out of it. If you're going to make an
Mhm.
investment into regenerative biologics, please do the work first. Don't just come here all inflamed, having cheeseburgers every day and having some alcohol too much and expect that the stem cells are going to fix you because you're too inflamed. They're not going to make a big enough dent or
So
you're
when
not
you
going to
say
get.
hormones, are you saying the hormone replacement therapy?
I am saying that in a bioidentical way. No
Yes.
synthetic horse urine problems, no conjugated problems. We're talking about the stuff your body makes but's not making enough of anymore.
Hmm. Okay.
And
Okay. I'm a
then what
big
you do
fan,
is
by the way.
good. And then you do your homework. You look online, you put in the issues you want. What are your goals? Because we're going now from healthcare needs to healthcare desires. Okay, I'm
Hmm.
pretty healthy, but I want to live longer and I want to feel good when I'm 84. What does that take?
Hmm.
That's where we come in. Yeah,
Wow.
and then do your homework. There are all kinds of clinics around the US. I'm not the only one. But of course, if most of our patients aren't here locally in Las Vegas, we do telehealth. Just you and I are having a video together now. We get people's labs. We help them order things that a regular doctor might not be accustomed to ordering, including specialized imaging for looking at a joint problem. And we do the work. And I have people contact me all the time with a new issue that I haven't addressed. And we do the homework. We look up the research. We might use AI to help guide
Mhm.
us and find some resources and we try to figure things out for people. We try to look for the root cause. We don't just treat the symptoms. We want to be
Yeah.
holistic, be comprehensive, we want to be thorough, and we want to be the alternative to the traditional sick care, institutionalized, watered down 5 minutes that they get with their doctor.
Yes. While we're speaking about that, how can they reach you?
As you said at the outset, our business clinic is now called ReCELLebrate because we are celebrating the renewal of our cells. So that's ReCELLebrate. And you can find us at ReCELLebrate.com, at ReCELLebrate on all the different socials, Instagram, we're on Facebook, LinkedIn. We invented that word. So I think we pretty much cornered the
Own
internet
it.
on it. So if you type in ReCELLebrate in your browser search bar, you'll probably find us one way or another.
Will they get their own personal person to oversee their journey
Yes,
as
they will get Dr. Jeff. You get me. I'm still the chief bottle washer here at ReCELLebrate. I wash my own coffee mug every day still. And yeah, we're still small enough to do that. I don't know what that has for our future. I have a lot of projects going on, but
Mhm.
I'm also a guy who to just keep doing lots of stuff. So I to meet new people. We are busy, but we like being busy. So don't let that dissuade anyone.
Yeah. How often would a person at first, when you're first figuring the person out and figuring out a program for them, are they meeting with you once a week or?
Very few people need that. It's usually every 4 to 6 weeks. We might try something, order some tests. That takes a few weeks to get. Or we might try a peptide, which are very popular now, and give that a 4 weeks to see what it does and then reconvene. So typically 4 to 6 weeks.
This is all very exciting.
Isn't it?
Yes, it's very, and I feel very blessed because when something comes across my desk that perks my brain, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. So, what have I not asked you that you are excited about or you think
Well,
people would benefit
you,
from?
you've covered quite a bit, and I have to salute you for that. And most people only get a fraction of this when we're doing an interview, but I don't know if you've done any work on your show before with peptides.
No.
But this has been just an amazing amplification in the last 6 to 12 months. And if you haven't heard of them out there, folks, you will. And
Mhm.
peptides, if I can, are small proteins that we make, but just like hormones, we're just not making enough anymore sometimes.
Mhm.
And they can enhance and signal to our cells some specific activities we want to address. For example, many people have heard of Ozempic or semaglutide, which is a peptide that can be used for weight loss and diabetes, but also suppresses inflammation in the long run, reduces the risk of cancer in the long run, reduces the risk of inflammatory diseases in the long run. This is well published and growing. So we can do a low dose GLP for people who don't need to lose weight. If you want to lose a little weight, it's also good for that too. I'm on a low dose GLP. I've been on one for almost 4 years now, and I love it.
So, there's
I'm,
no long-term effect showing up with that.
oh yeah, there's a great effect. My inflammatory scores are lower. My risk of chronic inflammatory disease is lower. That's the effect.
Wow.
You take a low enough dose where you're not losing any more weight once you hit your goal weight. So we manage that. There are many other peptides. There are peptides that help enhance musculoskeletal healing and inflammation. For example, there's one isolated from our own gastric juice called BPC 157. It stands for Body Protection Compound 157. There are many others. There's some for skin health. The copper peptide for skin health. You can do it topically and internally. We use peptides for brain function, for mood, for libido. We have peptides for muscle mass, which is so important. We probably need to do a whole show on that.
So we're not talking about the powdered collagen and peptides that I'm taking in my coffee every morning, right?
Uh, no, those are peptides because they're fragments of protein. And I also take those. No, we use those to build proteins in our body. These peptides, I'm talking about are therapeutic peptides. They're signaling agents.
Got it. See, I see.
You got it. No, you got it.
Yeah, fascinating. Okay. There was something else that I was going to ask you.
We need to get you a brain peptide because you forgot.
I know, totally. There's a few, the GLP might be good for me. I just want to tie this into a lot of what we talk about on the podcast has to do with energy,
Yep.
spiritual energy,
Yep.
the energy we have in our aliveness in life, which comes
Yep.
from this self-care and the biohacking and the
Yep.
paying attention and waking up. So we've shifted into stabilization and regulation. So we talk a lot about that. So just to tie it all together, how will what you offer with ReCELLebrate help people wake that part of themselves up and regulate and stabilize so that they can just live their life as fully and as alive as possible to the day death taps them?
I love this question because we are now learning more about the vibrational states of molecules at the cellular level, the mitochondrial function, and the importance of cell function and how that manifests for the person and their feelings and their state of mind. And there's a connection there. I don't know that we know every last bit of it, but we know you can use your mind to help your health, and you can
Hmm.
help your health to help your mind. We know there's also a connection with the gut, the bacteria, the microbiome in the gut. They produce not only exosomes too, but they also help us process phytonutrients that we need. We need them. We need the right balance of them. And they connect biomolecules with the brain. And we do know that molecules vibrate, and that vibrational level can be changed and affected. And we that affects brain waves and frequencies. And these are all intertwined. And I'm not the expert at connecting the dots there, but they're connected. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
boy, when we figure that out, then the Star Trek tricorder will be developed, because that's what they're doing.
And the truth is, the human mind has already developed the tricorder. It's just a little ahead of the time. Remember the cell phones?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just, it's the timelines are overlapping and doing the thing. That's a great answer. And it is all interactive, it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
I always ask one last question of my guest. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. How do you recommend that our listeners go out and live their most alive lives?
The biohacker in me says keep moving, exercise. We're an organism that self repairs best when we need to be locomotive. If you are spending too much time sitting at a desk, which I do sometimes, I admit it. If you're spending too much time sitting on the couch, which I do sometimes, I admit it, you got to get up and do an exercise snack, do 10 squats, do 20 squats. I believe now in using your muscles to failure. So do one set of something
Mm.
at home in the living room between commercials. Of course, no one watches commercials anymore because we have streaming. So, got to keep moving, maintain your muscles, maintain your bones. That'll help the rest of you, including your mind, your soul, your longevity, and everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your very valuable time. I really appreciate you and the information. I'm going to be contacting you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Anytime I'm phone a friend for you, Joni, and anyone that listens to you, I'd love to meet new people and help any way I can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for what you do.
Welcome.
This conversation is a powerful reminder that healing is not about fixing what's broken. It's about remembering what's possible. Dr. Jeff Gross is helping redefine healthcare by placing regeneration, vitality, and personal care at the center of the healing journey. If you're serious about regenerative medicine, longevity therapy, stem cell activation, or precision biohacking, I encourage you to explore Dr. Gross's work. Thank you for being here and for continuing to wake up to your body, your truth, and your infinite capacity for renewal. Now, beautiful humans, my favorite part. It's your turn to go out and live your most alive lives.